The judge in Young Thug's trial is already tired of the prosecutor. The prosecutor in Young Thug's trial has been holding evidence from Thug's lawyers, leaving them with no time to create a defense for the rapper, which is very illegal in a court trial, as the judge would then be heard yelling at the prosecutor, scaring many that was inside of the courtroom.
Your Honor, we would ask because we would ask that all of this be reserved for the 16th because this all came up in September. You said you allowed us to.
I am really annoyed about this, Ms. Hilton. I just am. This is ridiculous. Your witness list has grown by 2/3 since then. And I don't know why. You better have a dang good explanation on the 16th, because if you don't, I'm going to exclude it. Okay. But right now, I'm telling you, without anything further, it's gone.
Well, we would like to
exclude a lot more on that date, because this is ridiculous. There is no plausible explanation I've gotten and that would suffice, that we just kind of keep, you keep dripping and drabbing out evidence.
As while the judge was yelling at the prosecutor, Young Thug's lawyers are making plays behind the scenes. As it was just announced today, Young Thug's lawyer files a motion to redact/remove any mention in the indictment of the 9 co-defendants who took guilty pleas. He argues the fact that co-defendants pled guilty cannot be used as evidence against Thug or others in the trial, as in some YSL members that took plea deals, there is a written deal in there that a few of them will have to take the stand against Young Thug, where they will reveal to the new jury that YSL committed all these crimes, which makes Young Thug look very guilty. Why this is so important is because Young Thug's co-defendant and right-hand man, Durante Bibi, aka B, had now pled guilty to his RICO charges that are currently against him, along with participation in criminal street activity, theft by receiving stolen property, violation of Georgia's Controlled Substance Act, armed robbery, hijacking of a motor vehicle, as well as firearm charges.
And you give this guilty plea freely and voluntarily, means your own decision to enter a plea this afternoon?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And sir, then I find that based upon the responses that you've given and the colloquy in this case and the court's questioning of you, that your pleas are freely and voluntarily entered. I find a factual basis. I'm going to go ahead and accept your pleas as tentative and negotiated, sentence you to the as indicated. You're 23 years old. You've had enough trial in your life at this point in time. Would you agree?
Yes.
Time to have a little testimony. Time to reclaim your own life, and that you can do in this case, or if you just separate yourself from the people that you've been hanging out with. Find some new friends, find some new people that are going to be positive in your life. And if they don't add to your life, then you need to cut them loose.
Bibi was sentenced to only 5 years in prison alongside 10 years of probation. Following his release, B is now the 9th co-defendant to strike a plea deal to avoid trial in this YSL case. Now, with B taking his plea deal, admitting guilt of committing all of these crimes, it is showing the new jury that Young Thug was likely involved as well, as the announcement of, and I quote, the Young Thug in YSL RICO trial is expected to officially start November 27th. Starting tomorrow, 12 jurors and 6 alternates will be seated from the pool of 50 qualified jurors, as further explained here.
We finally have a jury. According to this tweet by Thugger Daily on Twitter, the jury's demographics are 9 women, 3 men, 7 black women, 2 white women, 1 white man, and then the 6 alternate jurors are 3 black women, 2 white men, and then 1 black man. So it's going to be a good mix of this jury. This started off with 28 indicted defendants, including Young Thug. Some of them took plea deals. Some of them have been severed from the case. Some of them don't have lawyers, not even public defenders. And 1 person is still on the run. And so after all of that, we are down to 7 defendants. So when this trial starts on November 27th, it will be 7 defendants in that courtroom. And that does include Young Thug.
As originally in the YSL indictment, there was 28 members arrested in this RICO case. However, after many making plea deals, snitching, we're now down to only 7. However, Young Thug's lawyers are making huge moves which can help the evidence provided by these snitches in his case not usable against Young Thug, which also makes sense as to why the prosecutor are trying to hide evidence, that way it doesn't become unusable by the time the trial begins. To understand this fully, we need to dive deep into the report of, and I quote, Ryan Steele says Lil Woody was told he would get 25 years in federal prison in a different case if he didn't cooperate against Young Thug, aka Snitch. The state refuses to give anything to the defense concerning the federal agent that went after Lil Woody with this. Ryan Steele wants to put her on the stand to show the jury that Lil Woody was told to lie about Jeffrey Williams.
Specifically is on the recording, KC, that he will get, that she spoke with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and he is facing, if he does not cooperate against Mr. Williams, he's facing 25 years at a minimum charges in federal court, and there's no parole. I do not have one document, not one note or memoranda provided in discovery concerning ATF agent Cunningham.
As Young Thug's lawyers have now found hard evidence to prove that Lil Woody was forced to snitch against Young Thug, as Lil Woody provided a majority of the evidence that the current prosecutors are using against Young Thug. As shared in the report of, and I quote, YSL Woody popped out on the gram last year after cooperating with police for 3 hours in solving over 50 crimes, telling on Young Thug, YFN Lucci, and others, as there is footage of Lil Woody explaining to law enforcement every single crime that YSL and Young Thug has ever committed throughout the last decade. As when this was originally announced to happen, this was Young Thug's reaction in court the following day. As Lil Woody snitched for 3 hours. He said every single illegal thing they ever did, including Lil Baby and Gunna's name came up as well, as the Atlanta DA that is currently going after Young Thug, named Fannie Willis, would go on to explain that Lil Baby is next up on the Atlanta DA RICO list.
An in-depth investigation. Recent months you've had 2 high-profile racketeering cases. There are going to be more.
Over the next 60 days, you'll see 2 more.
As law enforcement has been doing illegal tactics to get YSL members to snitch against Young Thug. You may remember the first court hearing where the prosecutor was saying that Young Thug is practically the most dangerous human on planet Earth. This was all provided information by Lil Woody snitching at the start of the trial.
He's the one directing traffic. He is the one they're all afraid of. He's the one that's king slime. He is the most dangerous of the 28, Judge. And I implore you not to grant him a bond. He is dangerous. If he gets a burner, Judge, and the court may know this, a lot of the communications that Mr. Williams is on FaceTime because it's not traceable, it's not trackable. Judge, I will also say that we have taken proffers from fellow from Mr. Williams. Some are on this indictment, some are not. They have stated uniformly that Mr. Williams is dangerous. They are afraid of him, that if they cross him, he will kill them and their family. And they were very clear about that.
Concerns that this court has is danger to persons and to intimidate other witnesses and obstruct the administration of justice. So and for those reasons in the aggregate, I'm going to deny bond at this time.
As things would just continue to get worse. To understand this, we need to dive deep into Young Thug's new charges that are currently against him, as new evidence reveals that Young Thug and the YSL rap group were doing rituals with goats. As a lawyer would go on to explain,
but in this case, Hassan says he's unclear what specifically a goat could represent.
The theory behind animals is you're draining their energy, their power, and to use for mystical purposes, and obviously interviewing former members who were present who could explain the context and what if any ceremony was taking place. Then you have some illumination possibly on it.
He also said animals may be illegal in some areas and not protected under religious freedoms.
As it just so happens where Young Thug was currently living at that time, it is just one of the states where it is illegal to do these actions that YSL was doing with a goat. This means more charges against Young Thug, minimizing his chances at receiving a bond before trial. However, it's very clear to the judge in Young Thug's case that Young Thug is being mistreated. It's very clear that he's being targeted with everything humanly possible. That way he has no chance of ever being released. As even earlier in the RICO case, Young Thug had his lawyer tweet to Michael Phelps saying, "I'm talking with my roommate and we're wondering if you could swim 100 miles from the middle of the ocean back to shore." As prosecutors would allege, this is code for YSL members in the free world to go commit crimes on Young Thug's behalf.
Williams is in a jail outside of Fulton County. There are 0 cell phones in that jail. That last tweet that was sent out to Michael Phelps is recorded. It's been investigated by the sheriff of that county, and it was a conversation that's recorded between Mr. Williams and a member of his close friendships, that he asked the other person who has control of his Twitter account. That is not a reason to...
Well, this is part of the conversation, Mr. Steele, and you and others are going to need to have with your clients, because this is part of the state's concern. I mean...
That was an innocent... That's nothing bad. Asking somebody to tweet to Michael Phelps, "Can you swim 100 miles in the ocean?" That has nothing to do with intimidation. I'd ask you,
well, if I can communicate through a family member or somebody else, then I can communicate something else.
Everything okay over there?
Sorry.
Yep. Okay, your family was concerned that something was going on. You're fine, right? Yes, I'm great. Okay, cool.
With all of that aside, Young Thug still has a great chance of being released after this trial. To understand this further, you need to listen to what Young Thug's lawyers had Young Thug's father do this week. As earlier this week, Thug's father would go on to do a random interview stating that Gunna didn't snitch on Young Thug. However, it really seems like Thug's dad is making it seem as if Thug wants no revenge against Gunna for snitching and that the two are cool.
Courtney said, "How do you feel about Gunna?"
I love Gunna.
See, that's the thing. People don't understand the relationship. They got this thing saying that Gunna is a rat and he's done this and done that.
But see, let me try to help the attorney clarify that a little simpler.
Okay.
Gunna hasn't done anything whatsoever that can hurt us on this case. Period.
As Thug's lawyers don't want the judge believing that he wants any sort of revenge against Gunna and that he's a changed person ever since sitting in jail for over the last year, as this is going to be helping if the Lil Woody evidence is no longer usable against Young Thug. As stated earlier, the prosecutors are hiding evidence from Thug's lawyers. This is because the evidence was all provided by Lil Woody, and if it becomes unusable because Woody was forced to snitch, Young Thug will be able to walk straight out of this case with no issues.